I fell victim to one of the classic blunders from the Princess Bride movie.
You fell victim to one of the classic blunders. The most famous is never get involved in a land war in Asia, but only slightly less well known is this.
Never thumb wrestle a man with half a thumb. I've already shared my story of my uncle, his missing fingers, and his dangerous tractor ride to the hospital. But this story is about a kid I knew in high school, let's call him Jessie, who lost his thumb in a way that could only happen in Wisconsin. In junior high, Jessie worked on his neighbor's farm, doing classic farm chores such as baling hay and milking cows. One day, Jessie was holding a rope that was tied to a heifer. For those of you not familiar, a heifer is a female that has not yet freshened and born a calf, and thus is generally smaller than a full-size cow. So Jessie's holding this rope that is tied to this heifer. Something sparked the heifer and it bolted. Unfortunately, the rope was wrapped tightly around Jessie's thumb right below the knuckle. When the heifer ran, it literally pulled the end of his thumb right off of his hand. Now, these days, you would just pick up the thumb, take it to the hospital, and have them reattach it. Well, in this case, that wasn't possible. You see, there are generally two types of systems for disposing of cow crap in a barn. The first was the gutter system, which consisted of a gutter running behind the cow stanchions that had a conveyor chain with paddles in it. The cows would do their business in the gutter, and periodically, the farmer would turn on the conveyor system, which would start the belt and move the manure out of the barn for later disposal. By the way, when you were a little kid, jumping over that cow gutter was always a nerve-wracking moment of truth to see if you would make it or not. The second type of waste disposal system in a barn was called the slat system. In the slat system, the floor is constructed with gaps in the floor. The cow could do their business, and the manure would immediately fall through the slats into the collection pit down below. Now, unfortunately for Jessie, his neighbor's barn had the slat system, so when his thumb got yanked off, it fell immediately through the slats into the manure pit below, where it was not able to be retrieved. Jessie lost his thumb that day. But Jessie recovered and he eventually returned to school. Coincidentally, Jessie and I rode on the same school bus. On the bus one day, he told me his story and showed me his thumb, or his half thumb. To which I joked, "Too bad you're never going to win a thumb wrestling match again with only half a thumb." Jessie grinned and challenged me to a thumb wrestling match right there. Well, other kids had been listening, so there was no way that I could back down from this challenge from a half-thumb boy, and I accepted his challenge to a thumb wrestling match. To my surprise, Jessie beat me 10 times out of 10. He was undefeated. His remaining stub thumb was surprisingly effective in thumb wrestling. Somehow he was able to consistently catch my thumb with his little stub and pin it against his hand for the victory. On the other hand, the lack of full thumb, and especially the knuckle, made it impossible for me to grab his thumb. He would just slip right out every time I got it, earning a victory every time. Out of curiosity, I looked up the rules for competitive thumb wrestling, and I cannot find anywhere where you are required to have a full thumb to participate in the tournaments. So maybe Jessie could have gone pro as a thumb wrestler, though the tiny ring that they use for the matches might have posed tricky for him. We just don't know what Jessie's thumb wrestling potential would have been. So in the end, I learned two things that day. First, never underestimate a man with a half a thumb. And second, if you want to win at thumb wrestling, make sure that your opponent has all their digits. Do you have an amusing story about a missing finger? If so, I'd love to hear about it. Drop it in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe, hit the thumb, and hit the bell. And as always, sincerely, thank you for watching.